したので、それではソパチと渡さんの、博士論文、本審査および公聴会を始めたいと思います。プレゼンテーションは発表時間は40分、その後質疑応答が20分あります。で、最初に質疑応答は、審査員の先生2名の方からお願いをして、その後、今日ご参加の方々からも、質問を、受け付けます。で、質問については、日本語でも、英語の方がいいかな、お願いしますということで、ではよろしくお願いします。じゃあお願いします。
Hi, good morning everyone. My name is SOPACHITWATANA SUPASUMOND, and today I would like to present about my thesis in the topic of multidimensional emergency signage design. So, at first, I'm going to talk about my background first. So, disclaimer, this background is the video, and this video contains the sensitive content that may be harmful or traumatizing to some audience. So, you are feel free to not look at it. This footage is the real footage recorded by the survivor from mass shooting rampage at Terminal 21 department store in Korat, Thailand in 2020. The situation is the predator have a conflict about the benefit in the military system, and he used the army weapon to shoot at anyone to get out of his way, and the location is in the department store. So in the video, you will see that people are facing direction dyslexia, or in other words, people have a trouble to distinguish the direction, or in this case, an escape routes. But you can see over there that if they get out of the mall, they will clearly see the exit side. But people choose to go back into the mall, rather to go down the stair or the exit point. So this video dedicates the field of escaping route information. From the news, they say that almost 300 people has been trapped inside the mall, and 30 include predator himself dead, and another 58 persons have been injured. As you can see in the video, that they choose to hide over the run. So, what this event affect me? So this event affect my nerve and caught my attention immediately and eager me to do something. The first thing that comes to my mind is to save those people. But if you see the video, you can see that there are many factors that lead people to hide over the run, right? Whether it's going to be the human experience, human physical, psychological, the cognitive thinking, the sound, the timing, the building structure, or anything else that you can imagine. But if I consider all of this, maybe I cannot do my thesis or cannot finish it within 3 years. So I will focus from the thing that I'm really familiar with. As a designer background myself, there are not much things that I can do to change the whole system. But as a design related practice, there are some rules that I can assure I can improve the safetyness of the users. And that also is the signage. Because the signage itself contains graphic and also another design relative too. And when I touch the signage in this situation, of course I will touch in other expertise too. For example, the human experience, human behavior, decision making, cognitive thinking, timing, and so on. So I'm gonna pause you there and gonna skip you to the exit side. Now I'll focus on exit side and the background of exit side. So Emergency signage play an important role in helping building occupants find a safe route in both circulation and evacuation circumstances. And currently, problem exists in the fact that evacuation signage often overlooked, and the misinterpretation of the meaning sign is become a problematic issue. So this study will aim to investigate how to make an improvement of emergency signage located internally. And one important aspect of the designer of emergency sign is the message conveyed should be absolutely unmistakable and understandable to anyone at any time too. I'm gonna talk about the research background objective now. In research world, there are some papers that focus on visualization ability, whether it's going to be the font and text size, the lighting wise, and other people may be focused on the position and placement, whether it's going to be the placement itself or placement that affect the speed. And most of the people will done in the practical practice experiment. For example, they will use a stimulation with the signage, whether it's going to be the text size, the placement, and also timing too. This is the research from the research world that I found. But maybe none of them focus on visualization ability in terms of signage itself. And I see clearly why, because there are law and regulations. This is the list of law and regulations that we use nowadays. The famous one is the BS 5099, along with the ISO 7010 and EC Safety Sign Directive. And this is the picture that we familiar with. The EC Safety Sign Directive, the last one, you will mostly see in Europe area rather than anywhere else. And come to the consist of the exit sign. So exit sign will be consist of regulation used, like I mentioned you before. This is the list of the regulation used. The text size, as far as I researched, I just found out that each text size width should be 1.9 centimeter. And the green color is quite debating because in USA at some stage, they still use red to indicate the exit sign rather than the green one like we're familiar with. Also with the pictograms, everyone knows that this pictogram designed by Japanese people named Yukio Ota. And the sizings, this one is different to the person who produced this signage and the company that trying to sell this signage too. They have a lot of variety of the sizings. And come to the arrow part. I want to focus on the arrow parts a little bit. This is the arrow that we see in each regulations. And you can see that in BS 5099, the most popular one, they have diagonal arrows. And also with Japan, China, and Thailand, we adopt the BS 5099. That's means we use the diagonal arrow too. So now I know that I'm going to focus about the exit sign. And I want to talk briefly about this study. In this study, I have done 5 experiments. And 5 experiments, to be easy to understand, I will divide it into 2 parts. The first part is the previous study. It's more like a pure investigation purpose, preliminary set of questions and tasks. And the second part is the research study done for research purpose to acknowledgement set of questions and tasks. To be more detailed in the previous study, experiment number 1, interpretation of direction information. This is the set of questions about the existing signage with an open-end answer. So disclaimer, all of my research and all of my experiment is open-end question. And for the first one, This one includes the in-depth interview too. Aim is to investigate the effectiveness of emergency signage and to seek for possibility of individual interpretation. Second one is human behavior observation. This one is the real-life evacuation practice. The participants were asked to attach the helmet camera while they performance a task. And this one aimed to observe the human behavior and searching for the factor that affect the decision system in human during the evacuation process. And then I'm gonna find my focus point. I'm gonna find the problems. And then I will try to eliminate that problem by using another 3 research or another 3 experiment that I will be done. From the second part, the research proposed. The first topic is the interpretation of direction information, number 2. This one is approximately the same with the first one, but for this one, it's gonna be the set of questions about the existing signage and the new signage. And then I'm gonna compare it. This one I have both offline and online questionnaire. Aim is to investigate the effectiveness of emergency signage and the new signage. Also with the descriptive response of signage meaning experiment. This one is also a set of questions about new and old existing signage with time limit and eye tracking machine. So that means that the method I will choose the eye tracking machine. Aim is to analyze the effectiveness and the time consumption between the existing sign and the new signage. And the last one, direction selecting experiment. This one also a set of questions about new and old signage with eye tracking machine. The aim is approximately the same, but in the detail it will be a little bit different, which I will tell you later in the next slide. So this is all my experiment that I have been done so far. And with being said, I have 5 experiments, and to be more easy to understand, for this presentation, I will divide it into the introduction, definition and terms. Then I'm gonna jump into the previous study and gonna dive into the focus point, then talk about the research study, then I'm gonna summarize the data, then conclusion. And for more easy to understand, I will use this pattern from now on to make you more clear and make you more easy to understand. At the first part, research background objective in both academic and practical area, I already told you. So right now I'm going to jump into the previous study, number 1. And the picture that you see right now is the set of questions that I used to become my question. And this one I used the British format BS5499, as we familiar with now. This is an open-end question, and the participant will feel free to answer whether they think this image referring to participant. I have 16 nationalities like Chinese, Mongolian, and Japanese. The age is as is written on the screen right now. And jumping to the result, this is the result that I got. Taking into the percentage, this is the error percentage that I got from the existing exit line. And to be more detailed, I found out that the problematic one, I mean the number of the answer will increase since number 4. To be more detailed, this is where the answer has been happened more than 1 or 2. Also with the diagonal one, whether it's going to be diagonal up into the right, down left, and up left too. So what this experiment told me, this finding suggests that 2-dimensional design format of emergency exit sign was unclear and mislead people in the navigation process. So people I usually interpret the signage according to their understanding. And I will jump into the previous study number 2. This one, participants were asked to perform the evacuation task, which resemble of wayfinding process by relocate themselves from assigned location to another assigned location. This one headband camera will record and their performing assigned tasks. Elevator and personal communication device are prohibited. From this experiment, I have 16 participants. Nationality and age is as is written on the screen. Objective is to observe human behavior and searching for the factors that affect the decision system in humans during the evacuation process. Note that the time consumption from the experiment are excluded. And the aim is to keep the people experience the internal environment as much as they can. So I will be focused on cognitive thinking rather than the human action. And this is the location that I use. The location that I use is the Faculty of Science and Engineering at the university, because they consist of 4 buildings. And from 4 buildings, you have to walk through 4 connecting hallway. And from the connecting hallway, I will put the starting point at the first floor of Kinga Hall. And from the starting point, as you know that because this building is much like a presentation room like this, so you have to walk down 1 stair or 2 stairs, because the connecting hallway have only the 2nd and the 3rd floor. Then you walk through the building and you will see another connecting hall. And then you have to walk through another building to see the 3rd connecting hallway. And when you move to another building, this is almost the last building. The connecting hallway is no longer at the 3rd floor anymore. So participants have to walk down the stairs until they reach the 1st floor and turn a little bit so they can see another connecting hallway. And from the last connecting hallway, the participant will clearly see the assigned exit point. I will jump into the result, and this is the data from the headband camera that I got. At first, everything seems normal. And the action I will try to record often, and the action that everyone done the same is they're trying to locate themselves in the brighter area. Like they're gonna look out of the window to locate themselves in open-end atmosphere rather than the internal atmospheres. And also with the foyer one, whether it's gonna be in front of the staircase, in front of the elevator, or in the foyer in front of the restroom. And all of this keep repeat in the experiment. They're trying to locate themselves by look out of the window rather than seeing the signage. And also stop at the corridor is the most. And this is the issue that occurred during the experiment, which I will explain you in more detail in the next slide. And I'm gonna stop you there first and do some conclusion first. So objective, like I mentioned you before that, I will focusing on the human cognitive thinking rather than the human action, right? And the conclusion is come to the human tend to facing the direction dyslexia when it's come to an internal environment. People rely on external because the building environment were limited. Two-dimensional and limited viewpoint affect their cognitive function in wayfinding. and the brain will play the critical role in terms of guiding the direction too. So, what I got from those two experiments is what determined that first, the human brain plays an important role in terms of guiding the direction. Maybe the human brain function in both 2D and 3D form. And current existing emergency signage, this was very clear that it was unclear and misleading, therefore facilitated inaccurate interpretation. And the place that emergency signage should be provided is the place that have a problem occur on the second experiment. By this case, is there in front of the staircase, corridor, and junction. So the purpose of the research, I will try to explore a new alternative dialogue and signage design approach to wayfinding that most effectively communicate and direct to the people to navigate themselves to safely. Okay, you may remember this picture. They have many things in the exercise itself, many consists. And now we know that the problematic part is the arrow part. And it happened only BS 54991 because the 54991 contains the diagonal arrows. So problem defining. At this stage, I'm trying to do the terms ideation. It means that I'm trying to seek out the alternative arrow from the people in my lab. And I got a lot of things like the three-dimensional arrow, the context one, the depth one, the perspective one, and the road sign. But however, there is lack of relevant data concerning alternative approach to conventional emergency signage design, and appearance could possibly provide a significant different perception in way occupancy and interpret the signage. So for this reason, this study will explore the benefit of alternative sign connected with the perception of wayfinding process. In addition, introduce an alternative set of pictograms in emergency signage to eliminate the misinterpretation. Like I mentioned you before, this is the arrow that I got from the ideation phase. And the one thing that I found very interesting is the traffic sign. Because traffic sign, when you see this, it requires you to act immediately, otherwise car behind you gonna crash you, right? So when you see this sign, you have to act in a second to turn, to U-turn or something like that. And I think maybe it's familiar with my exit sign too. And for this reason, I will focus on experiment to investigate how we can improve the signage in an emergency sign. At first, this is BS 5499. And this is a new 3D signage design that I tried to contribute. The first one, I tried to adopt the perspective or adopt the road sign. And also, I will try to adopt the detail. And the last one, I try to adopt the road sign, which I will explain a little bit more about this sign. And from now on, I'm gonna call it multi-dimensional signage. Jump into the first experiment in the research part. This is the set of questions that I asked 100 people, nationalities, Thai, Chinese, Japanese, age is as is written on the screen right now. So method is a set of questions about existing and the multi-dimensional signage or new design. Objective is to investigate the effectiveness of emergency signage and the new multi-dimensional signage. And as you can see that I have the design that I adopt the depth design, adopt the road sign, and adopt the contextual one, and also adopt the depth and adopt the road sign. And this is the result that I got. Okay, as you can see, the first row is the existing BS 5499 like usual. And the answer is not surprisingly, it's the same with the first experiment. The problematic one starts with the A4. When it points down, people tend to answer in a very well-rest answer, along with the diagonal of the diagonal one. And For the next one, the one that I adopt, depth 1. This one also have a problematic one. This one, the result is not as I expected. Paper still confusing if you use only the depth. But for the A13 to A16, you will see that the number that people tend to answer in the very various answer has been decreased, and people tend to answer in the same direction more than ever. For example, this one, if you see, okay, they have 2 colors, but this one indicate go straight and left, but this one indicate left, so it means that it's approximately the same answers. And also, it happened with the one that I adopt the context one too. This one is not just people tend to answer in the same direction, but people tend to answer in the more detail too. For example, if you see the diagonal one, maybe you said go up on the left, but this one, people will say that go up with the stair on the right hand side. It means that people have more information with only this tiny picture. And also this is the one, actually the A21 and 23, 223, I trying to mimic the answer from the A4 one. That some people say that this is tend to meaning that this is go back. So I will try to mimic the go back answer by creating a real go back signage. And this one have a more successful rate. And people tend to answer more than a half that is dedicated to going back. So, as you know, this one is not good enough. But for another multidimensional signage, I can see that people tend to answer in the same direction. And this is a very satisfying rate for me. So I'm gonna jump into the experiment number 2. Okay, people still questioning me about, okay, if the people said in the same direction, so what? When you have to escape from another place to another place, it requires the timing too. So what gonna you gonna deal with that? That come to the second experiment. And like I mentioned you before from the previous study number 2, people assembly the real life evacuation. And this is the problematic that has been occurred. Like people going to the bright area, look out of the window, facing misdirection, stop at the junction, stop at the foyer, and stop at a transition space. But for the window itself, maybe there are no much room that I can do. So I'm gonna focus on the where that exactly internal, and people tend to seeking for the another information. And I use that place to become my baseline to install the new multidimensional signage, as you can see in the picture right now. And also with the shear viewpoint one too. To be more detailed, I'm using the very critical area like you see right now. But for the group number 1, I will use the same picture but different signage. B1 and B2, I will use existing signage. But B3, I'm going to use multidimensional signage. Also with the group number 2 and number 3, I use one existing signage and new 2 multidimensional signage. Also number 4, one existing signage and 2 another new multidimensional signage. Also with the shear viewpoint, but shear viewpoint I'm gonna ask where they wanna go. It's gonna be this arrow or that arrow. The method, I use this set of questions and use eye tracking machine to record that time. Objective is to analyze the effectiveness and time consumption when it's compared together, which one have the best result on timing and answer. This is the picture that I got from the experiment. And this is the result. As you can see, when it's come to the B1, people tend to answer in the same direction. this one as we expected. But for B2, when we install in the same picture, people tend to answer in a very various answers. But when I use my new multidimensional that try to mimic going back from the answer, people tend to say going back at the same. And this signage is come from the road sign too. Also with the group number 2 and number 3, when people see the new signage, people tend to answer in the same direction more than ever. And also, people say in a very fine detail too. So they said they have a stand, you have to go up. And also with the image, group number 4, this one even installed right here in front of the staircase, but people tend to have a confusing. But when you use new multidimensional signage, people answer in the same direction and also more detailed. And come to the critical part, the timing. I must say that the bigger bubble is more time people will consume during the answer. And the less bubble is less time people will use after they see the picture and answer the question. So you can clearly see that the less bubble is only in the new multidimensional signage. And also to be reliable, I'm using the ANOVA method to compare that this is the significant value that we can rely it or not. And the 0.001 is the acceptable rate to define that this is the significant point. This one I compare only in each picture. But for this one, this is multiple comparison. It means that I'm not compare only within each picture, but I will compare, for example, I will compare B4 with B5 and B4 with B6 too, as you can see. And all of the statistics indicate that when it comes to p-value parts, is less than 0.001. So even compare, the information is reliable too. And also, with the last question, that I'm using the shear viewpoint. This one very clear and understandable. That people tend to answer go straight and turn left. There are many answers when you're using the existing exit sign. But when I use the new one, people tend to answer in the same direction more than ever. In this case, everyone answers the same. And the time is very less than other. So coming to the final experiment. From the final experiment, I done this experiment to confirm the information. I used the same picture junction at the hallway. This one I'm trying to mimic the way we escape from the building. We not only see only one side, right? We will see the continuous sign. Like they said you have to go to this way, and then when you go to this way, you will see another sign that leads you to another way. So this one will mimic the way you trying to move yourself from another location to another location. And I use the set of questions from the group A, group 1. I'm using only existing exit sign. But for the group 2, I'm using the existing exit sign with a new design. Also with group 3 and group 4. To be more detailed, this one also use eye-tracking method. And the benefits of using eye-tracking machine is I know where exactly the eyeball of participant will look at when they see these pictures. Coming to the result, okay, to be more easy to understand, For the group number 1, if I use only the existing exit sign, people tend to use the focus time on the first signage is the yellow colors. The second time of the second signage is the orange colors. And this is the total focus time. This is what I got from the eyes tracking machine. But when it's come to the new multidimensional signage, people use less time to focus on the second signage, which affect the total focus time. And it's happened the same with this one too. People will focus on the second signage, or this one, less than this one, which affect the total focus time that they use less time to do the action too. This is to be more detailed. So, we almost reached the end of the presentation. In conclusion, the result informed that interpretation of direction experiment suggests that existing emergency signage correct response interpretation was limited due to the misinterpretation of the intended direction. The multidimensional emergency signage approach can be decreased error, make the wayfinding process and signage promote a successful rate at 94.25%. And the overall result from the experiment show that the accuracy of interpretation of direction for multidimensional signage design can promote the successful rate by 57.25%. So, the purpose of new pictogram emergency signage set include a representation of context not only imply the direction for viewer, but also critically assist their navigation process too. As you can see very clearly from the descriptive response of signage meaning, it shows that the time consumption recorded for participants to perceive the meaning of signage was significantly decreased. And multidimensional approach signage design positively benefit participant perception of direction and information in the situation where visual perspective are limited. And then I'm going to jump into the future work. Okay, from the test was conducted without a limit of time and open-end question too. And this would be the difference in actual emergency, for example, smoke and fire development. Maybe they have participants that have a physical or psychological perception. But however, this experiment result can help designer and safety organization to promote a safe environment in the future. The result can be used as a design reference to develop signage design in building as well as promote and assist viewers in their wayfinding process. So, I'm gonna go back to my first slide that I want to save those people. If you consider all the factors of this, maybe I cannot save them at all. Maybe I cannot finish all of my research within 3 years. But focus on the thing that I can do. Focus on the, maybe you must say that it's very tiny thing in your thought. But I think it can help. I think when it's come to the recreation part, like the video that you see before, if you see the new multidimensional signage and you can know immediately that, okay, this way you have to go straight and go down at the stair. You know the context first. Maybe it's make you make a decision faster than ever too. And I must say that from my presentation, from my research, I have touched another expertise too. Whether it's going to be human experience, human behavior, human factor signage, self-medicine making, or the cognitive thinking and timing. I think I have learned so much more by focusing only the tiny things in your head. So I can save those people or not. Maybe only 0.001, but I assure that I can save them and I can guide them to the safety pace. Even if 1 second faster, I sure that I can save them too. So Thank you very much and thank you for your participation. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we are going to start the question and discussion. Now, first of all, start from a reviewer's question.
Okay. So can I see the list, your slide? Because your slide, the character is very, very small. And some character is color is just a black color, and the background is green. So it is very, very visible character. I want to see a result of the questionnaire, maybe the direction question.
The first one or this one?
Next one. Yeah, maybe the 21 to 22. Can you enlarge this 21 to 22?
Yes. For this one, I trying to mimic the answer from the A4 one. A4, they have.
A4 is
Yes, A4
go
is.
back.
Yes, there are 14 people dedicated that this is going back.
Yeah.
So I trying to mimic that by using the going back side, like the U-turn one. But the reason for this to become a shape like this,
Yeah.
because it's combined with A4 and A5 or A6, A7, A8 too. You can see that people, when they see this side,
Oh yeah, but what is the meaning of A5?
yeah, some people, 12 people say that it's going up.
Yeah.
Because they think that this is the pictogram is themselves,
But
and they're going up.
But in the regulation, maybe the A5, the meaning is deciding, maybe. How the user use this side? Maybe the upstairs, when some person should be lead to upstairs,
Yes.
maybe this side is used in the traditionally. Is it true?
Yes, I think the problematic one is people think that, okay, they are the green pictogram and they have to go up according to the arrow. But some people think that they are not this arrow. They stand here and they say they focus only this arrow and they tend to think that this is, okay, go diagonally right or going up on the right hand side. So it's very, like I mentioned before, differ to the people cognitive thinking. Someone, they use this pictogram to represent themselves. That's why the answer is very diverse. And that's why I trying to mimic those feelings. From my perspective, I'm not gonna use this as a myself, but some people use. So I using this as someone who using this pictogram as themselves. And when they see this side, it means that maybe they're going back on this direction. This one I trying to mimic that feeling from the answer that I got from A4 to A8.
What is the correct meaning of the A21? Go
Actually,
turn right or?
yeah, actually there are no exactly definition and there are no description in the same direction on the research that I found too. Like they think that okay, they should put this sign, but some website say that it's dedicated to go right, but some website they dedicate that is go up. So it's differ to the provider or the company that produce this signage. That's why I wanting to questioning this type of knowledge that have been lacked in our society right now.
Yeah.
So
The arrow, the straight arrow is very, very clear
yes,
for the direction. But another one is has some more than two meaning.
yes,
So maybe if you don't introduce such the complicated meaning signage and consider the position of the sign
yes,
is better, I think. So
Yes.
how about
yes. It's yeah. I must say that the placement is affect the decision too.
yeah.
That's why I trying to prove that in the another experiment that I use the picture to install the new and the old signage too. For example, this the final picture one. This one. Even you see the stair, but if the signage is different, maybe you interpret in a many way too. This one I trying to mimic the way people see the signage in the real place, but I must say that it's not like the real evacuation process that we see the like interior atmosphere. This one is just a 2D atmosphere. And yes, for the next step, I would love to install the new signage in the real location too, because some paper that I have been read, there are many paper that have been done in the placement and the position wise. So I'm not gonna repeating that, but if I have a chance, I will try repeating that in a different way. I'm trying to repeating that by using the new multidimensional signage. That affect the way participants will escape from the building or not too. But from the picture, as you can see that I use different type of the signage. I'm trying to compare them as much as I can in this research too.
Okay, but in this experiment, maybe how many signage should be located? What is the assumption in your experiment?
Actually, I install most of them. For example, this one I also install the upward and the downward one too. But the upward one and the downward one answer is approximately the same with this one.
Yeah.
Because people tend to say that, okay, maybe they say that this is go up, but they still use more time to think. And they still have a different answer. So they still have a various answer according to understanding. Because for this one, when you said go up, when the diagonal arrow is up like this, people tend to say, okay, maybe it's go up. But for this one, you said that people tend to say that this is go up at the stair. So I use this example because people tend to say it in more detail, more contextual, and it makes them have a decision more faster than before too.
Okay, but what is the correct answer at this case? Maybe if the upstairs sign is appeared, maybe the people have to go up.
Yes.
Yeah, that is the correct answer.
Yes. And for the installing part,
Yeah, and downstairs also, maybe that is these two signs are clear. But maybe the straight arrow is unclear. The people cannot decide upside and downside.
yes.
Okay. But if you can use more than two signs using the straight arrow, maybe the people can know the direction.
That's why I'm trying to create this experiment too, and use more than one.
No. If we consider that the previous case, at the stairs,
Yes.
maybe the front of the stairs use the straight arrows,
Yes.
and the next one is
Yes.
another place to straight arrows. Maybe we can use more than two straight arrows for signage. Maybe
Yes. Yes, it
people
would be
can.
better. Yes.
Yeah.
And like I told you before, some people have been done on the placement too. Like the placement that affect the speed. If people have only limited viewpoint, what they gonna think the signage referring to? So some paper has been done in the stimulation with the signage placement and also with the text size and with the placement itself too. So that's why I try not to touch the thing that people have been done before in the research world. But I try to touch what I can. In other words, I try to install my new multidimensional signage so it's not repeat this paper.
Okay. Understood. はい、ありがとうございます。Yes, so for example, A1 to A8 in your this one is the original one
Original one.
from British something,
Yes.
and others your design, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so my question is, so you, in my opinion, you add detailed information based on the original
Yes.
design. So, but as I asked the preliminary review, so you use some colors so to explain shadows and light.
Yes.
Also, your design makes the size of the tip of arrow smaller than the original one. So I just wonder, it's your design also in the original law or regulation, maybe original law or regulation only determine the background and foreground color only two.
Yes.
And so also determine the size of line.
Yes.
So yeah, I wonder your design also follow that law and regulation.
So
my question.
the reason I create the nips more narrow, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that I create the tips more narrow is because I'm trying to mimic the way we see this arrow on the screen. We will see while we're driving a car. So that means that when we see that signage, it's gonna be the perspective view. The nip will become smaller and the base will become wider. That's why I'm trying to mimic that. And from what you said, for the production, I must say that some company and some provider have only 2 color limits to produce this sign. It means that maybe they cannot do the black part or cannot print the black part out. But as I mentioned you on my further research, I must say that this is just the baseline for the next generation or the next research that I want to do. Maybe I will try to eliminate the black color out from my multidimensional signage and use as a sample again that the result is the same with the one that have depth or not. That is the thing that I'm looking forward to do too.
Okay. So, in other slides, actually, I cannot see the stairs from this distance. I cannot see the stairs at all.
Sorry for inconvenience.
Yeah. The next one is direction of examination of eye tracking. Again, so your eye tracking examination, displays are put on the desks and subjects look down.
Yes.
Actually, so dimension is important, but ideally, so the display should hang on the wall.
Yes.
But I actually cannot understand this direction mismatch is appropriate or not.
Yeah, I must say that maybe the bad thing that happened when I done the experiment is the screen. You see that the screen is placed on the top of the table, but normally when people tend to escape, they will facing in this angle rather than this angle. But when I try to pull that screen on the wall, there are many reflected and affect people to see what is inside the screen. So I must say that when the day that I do this experiment, there are too much light happen in the room. And that's why I have to eliminate that light by placing the screen on the table. And also behind this camera, I doing like trying to cover the shadow to become a shadow and shade to let the participants see the signage more clearly. And yes, if I have a chance to do the research more, I will try to use more better LED screen to become a baseline of my experiment. And also I will try to use the room that have no reflection light, so it can be first perfect and real, can be mimic the real life evacuation too. Thank you for your suggestion.
I just want to, so your claim, so this mismatch is not a problem.
Yes.
So you think so this direction mismatch is not...
Yeah, easy for people to see the screen more clearly in my point of view, yes. And if you're facing in this direction, okay, maybe it's mimic your way finding process. But if you not see the screen clearly, the eye tracking will not track your eye too. So I want to know the information from the eye tracking machine, and I want to know in more detail that which is the place, where is the place the eyeball of the participant will look at it. So I have to say that this is the best way at that moment to done this experiment. So I can have the data of both eyeball they were looking at can have a time and can have a time that not affected by the reflection too.
Okay. I see.
Next time is student audience. So if you have any question, point of view and comments, please.
You figure out that this is multi-dimensional emergency signage design. You found out that contextual and 3D is improving for viewer in their perception of direction. Have you ever think about the sign itself right now is 2-dimensional? Is that possible to make the sign itself 3-dimensional? And what would it going to be?
I must say that for 3-dimensional, there are many limitations when you trying to produce something 3-dimensional too. Whether it's gonna be the price or the provider or the regulation used, there are no regulation about the 3D signage yet. But as far as I know, if you can mimic the 3-dimensional within 2-dimensional. For example, the thing that I've been trying to do is I try to mimic the way we look at the arrow on the street. Right, you can see on the top level. Those one, maybe you see it and okay, this one you see it on the 2D screen. This is a 2-dimensional, but you feel that it look like 3D right now. So that is one way I can try to mimic the 3D within 2D. And also, like you mentioned, like you answered that, okay, can I produce more 3D one? Yes, maybe I can in the future. And for the limitation, for the many things, for the regulation, for a lot of things right now, maybe this is the best way that we can do. We want the mass production and we want everything to be absolutely unmistakable by using only the simple 2D one first. So maybe this is the best option in this period or in this situation. And I already tried to mimic the 3D one already.
So, anything for us? Finally, I will ask one question. Okay? So, I've been understanding when you designed the 3-dimensional arrow that might better affect the original one. However, real emergency is people is very, very big panic and psychology. Maybe as a mind is more than it's a daily life.
Yes.
Therefore, what are you going to do next stage?
Yes. For the next stage, like I mentioned you before, that there are many factors that affect the decision making while you performing the escape task. And the next step, if possible, I will try to use my new signage to assembly with the real-life evacuation process too. And trying to seeking out that my new multidimensional signage gonna help people think faster, even 1 second or 100 second to act faster or not to. So at the next stage, if possible, if I have time, I will try to use all the factors within my existing signage or and within my multidimensional signage too.
Hi. So thank you so much. The time is over.
Thank you. much for all sensei for your input and comment. And thank you for all of the friends that helped me through 3 years of study Ph.D. too. And also all the sensei, and especially Tanaka sensei. Thank you very much.